At the beginning of the movie, Risa is seen singing a song while playing the piano. She then stops and glances back, but finds no one there. She resumes the same song, playing the same tune, as if attempting to summon someone. After a while, a noise is heard, and Risa introduces herself to the viewers, revealing that she can see what most people call ghosts. As she turns, the spirits of 3 children appear behind her, and the scene abruptly cuts.
Comment. Subscribe to Recapss Horror.
The movie then shifts to the past, where Risa's mother, Elle, asks her what she plans to do today. She tells Risa that she will be home early so they can celebrate her birthday together. Risa stays silent, prompting Elle to ask if she knows what present she wants. When Risa still doesn't respond, Elle gently tells her that she has to leave now to visit Risa's grandmother at the hospital. After Elle leaves, Risa tells the viewers that she has always been left home alone since childhood. Her father works overseas and returns home only once every 6 months. She and her mother live at her grandmother's house, but with her mother always busy and often visiting her grandmother at the hospital, Risa spends most of her time alone. That evening, when Elle doesn't return home, Risa lights the candles on her birthday cake by herself. She makes a wish, praying that this year she wants to have a friend so she won't be alone anymore. As she blows out the candle, she hears someone singing upstairs. Confused, Risa cautiously follows the voice to a closet. But when she opens it, no one is inside. However, just as she turns to leave, a child suddenly emerges, startling her, before slipping back inside. Just then, 2 more children appear and ask Risa if she has seen their friend. She points them toward the closet, and they quickly run over to find the boy hiding inside. As they begin to leave, Risa asks if she can play with them, to which they agree, and she happily joins them. Later that night, when Elle returns home, she hears the sound of someone running, and assuming it's just Risa, she pays no attention at first. But moments later, the footsteps echo from downstairs. Growing uneasy, she gets up to check and looks down, only to discover toys scattered across the floor, along with drawings covering the ground. She goes to Risa's room and asks why she scribbled on the floor, but Risa doesn't respond, assuming she's asleep. Elle turns and leaves, but Risa sits up in bed and quietly asks her friends if they were the ones who drew on the floor, to which all 3 of them point at each other. The next morning, Elle wishes her a happy birthday and apologizes for coming home so late the previous night. She gives Risa her present, explaining that she wanted to give it to her last night, but found her asleep. She then gently reminds Risa that since she's grown up now, she needs to clean up her toys and stop scribbling on the floor. But Risa insists that it wasn't her. She takes Risa downstairs, but to her shock, the floor is completely clean. Next, we see Risa playing with her friends, and the caretaker, Zhang, is shocked to see her talking to someone, though to him, no one else is there. The 3 of them run toward a tree, when Jansen suddenly stops her, and William quickly says they should leave. Peter warns her never to play there again, and when she asks why, the 3 of them step back in fear before running away. In the evening, Risa is singing the same song her friends had been singing while writing down its notes in her notebook. Elle enters the room and asks if she has learned a new song and who taught it to her, to which Risa replies, "Some friends." And when Elle asks which friends, Risa simply answers, "You don't know them." Later, she asks Zhang who Risa played with that day, and he replies that she was alone, insisting he didn't see any children besides her. When she asks if he's sure, he explains that he only saw Risa laughing by herself and that there were no other kids. Worried, he says he fears she might be possessed, but she dismisses this as nonsense. Zhang suggests they consult Mr. Asif, and she asks, "My grandfather's friend? The psychic?" Zhang confirms, but she insists on seeing a psychiatrist instead. Still uneasy, Zhang urges her to call Mr. Asif first, warning that he senses a demon is present. Later, when she comes upstairs, she hears Risa giggling in her room as if she's playing with someone. She hears her mentioning the names Peter and William, but when she enters the room, Risa is alone. She asks her why she isn't asleep yet, and Risa replies, "Just 1 more minute," to which Elle reminds her that school starts next week, so she needs to get used to waking up early. She steps out of the room, but hears Risa talking to someone again. And this time, we see Risa playing with her friends. The next morning, Elle's friend Cinta visits, and Elle tells her that the night before, she heard Risa talking to someone, mentioning two names she couldn't clearly make out. Elle then calls out to Risa, saying she wants her to meet Aunt Cinta. But when Risa doesn't respond, they sit there, waiting for her. Suddenly, Cinta feels something touch her leg, and when they look under the table, they find Risa hiding there. Elle pulls her out and asks what she's doing, and Risa replies that she's playing hide and seek with her friends. Elle tells her not to lie, but Risa calls out to her friends, saying she's not hiding anymore. When Elle asks where her friends are, two chairs suddenly slide across the floor, and Risa tells Jen, Shan, and William to wait before running after them. Seeing this, Cinta says she isn't sure she can help, insisting she doesn't believe this is a psychological problem. That night, Risa asks why her mother can't see her friends, to which Jianshen says it's because they only want to play with her, while Peter adds that not everyone can see them. When Risa wonders if they're her neighbors, they shake their heads. Peter explains he was born in Indonesia, lost his parents during the Japanese invasion, and was killed in the same house, along with others who died there. Jianshen then asks if she's afraid of them, and Risa quietly shakes her head. Peter asks if she still wants to play with them, and she replies that she wants to stay with them forever. At the same time, Elle and Yuzhang arrive with Mr. Aesop, who urges Elle to quickly go and find her. Meanwhile, Jianshen, Peter, and William lure Risa toward the balcony, their cold presence pulling her closer to the edge. But just as she begins to climb the railing, Elle bursts into the room and rushes to her to stop her and drag her back from the brink into the room. Aesop tells her to pray, but Risa struggles, insisting her friends are real. Aesop says he knows, but they are not human, to which Risa says, but they are not evil and she wants to be with them. Aesop tells her that she has a gift, explaining to Elle that such a child cannot be left alone and daydreaming. Covering her eyes, he asks her to breathe deeply, saying this fishy smell is called Danur, and she must have smelled this ever since she met her friend. He then asks her to open her eyes, and as she does, Risa's heart freezes, seeing her friends in their ghostly form. Terrified, she lets out a blood-curdling scream before falling unconscious. She tells the viewers that she wishes she had never opened her eyes that day, because from that moment on, she never saw them again. After many years, they return to that house, and Elle asks Risa if she's sure it's okay, to which Risa says yes, explaining that no one is taking care of their grandmother until Aunt Tina can find a new nurse. Elle warns her not to let the same things happen again, and reminds her that she also needs to look after her younger sister, Riri. When they enter the house, they are greeted by Andre, their cousin. Elle tells him that he can return to his campus and let Risa take care of their grandmother until his mother finds another nurse. After he leaves, Elle tells Lisa to come with her, saying she needs to show her grandma's medications. Later, after Elle has left, Riri is playing with her doll under the big tree, when her eyes fall on something lying on the ground, and when she picks it up, she discovers it's a comb. Smiling, she sits with her doll and says she'll comb its hair to make it prettier. That night, while Riri is sketching and Risa is reading a book, someone knocks on the door. Risa tells Riri to check who it is, but Riri ignores her, pretending not to hear. Risa goes to check the door and finds no one there, but a woman quietly enters the house behind her. Riri asks her name, then introduces herself, and the woman says she's a C. When Risa comes back inside, Riri tells her, this is a C. And when Risa asks if she is the new nurse, a C nods. Delighted, Riri says she has a new friend and takes a C inside. Later, a C is combing Riri's hair with the same comb Riri found under the tree. When Riri asks a C if she will sleep with her so she won't feel afraid anymore, and a C simply nods in response. Meanwhile, Risa notices smoke curling out from a room as the lights inside flicker erratically. Heart pounding, she cautiously approaches the room, and when she reaches for the door, a C suddenly appears, yet she sees her in the hallway. Jolted, Risa rushes into the room to check, but finds it empty, and as she steps back into the hallway, a C walks away in silence. leaving Risa in shock. The next morning, Risa introduces Asi to Grandma, telling her that if she needs anything, she can just call for her. Risa then steps aside to get her medicine, and in that moment, Grandma's face shows clear fear at the sight of Asi. Risa explains Grandma's medication schedule to Asi, but Asi keeps staring intently at Grandma, making her even more uneasy. Later, Risa tells her mom about the new nurse sent by Aunt Tina, but Elle says that Tina never mentioned anything about it. Just then, Risa hears Grandma's bell and tells Elle she has to go. Risa rushes into her room and asks what's wrong. She tries to calm her and calls out for Asi, but the moment Grandma hears Asi's name, her fear intensifies. Risa does her best to soothe her, and after some time, Grandma finally begins to settle down. When Risa steps out, she hears Asi singing the same Sundanese song her childhood friends used to sing. Realizing the voice is coming from the bathroom, she cautiously enters, and as she pulls back the curtain, she finds Riri inside with Asi. Riri asks what she's doing, and Risa quickly replies, "Nothing," before turning and walking out. As she closes the door, she's startled by Andre and tells him he scared her. She then asks why he has come back, and he explains that her mother called and asked him to look after her. That night, Andre finds Riri sleepwalking, so he gently picks her up, saying he'll take her back to her room. However, as he walks down the hallway, a dark shadow of Asi follows him. The next morning, Andre sees Risa writing a blog about people who can see ghosts. Teasing her, he says she's always obsessed with ghosts and asks if she doesn't like normal people, to which Risa replies that humans irritate her. Laughing, Andre tells her he once read an article online about how to see ghosts, which said you just have to squat, bend down, and look between your legs. He then asks where Riri is, and Risa says she's playing outside. Curious, Andre gets up to check and sees Riri playing alone. He points out that Risa rarely plays with her, to which Risa says Riri doesn't want to play with her either. Besides, she already has Asi, the new nurse from Aunt Tina. Andre insists his mom never told him about any new nurse, and urges her to go play with Riri, saying she's all alone. Shocked, Risa rushes to the door to check, but she sees Asi playing with Riri. Asi then slowly turns and looks directly at her, leaving Risa frozen in fear. Later, as Risa is praying, Asi suddenly appears behind her, only to vanish instantly. Unaware of this, she continues praying, and once again, Asi flickers into existence, before dissolving just as suddenly into the shadows. Meanwhile, Andre asks Riri and Risa if they want some meatballs, when a packet slips from his hand, and when he bends down to pick it up, he catches a glimpse of Asi, who disappears the next moment. Confused, Andre steps outside while eating, but as he sits down, he is stunned to see Asi standing on the balcony. He rushes to his grandma's room and checks the balcony, but finds no one there. However, as he looks down, Asi suddenly appears behind him, only to vanish in an instant. Andre enters the room and is horrified to see Grandma on the floor, desperately crawling toward the door. Risa rushes in, asking what happened, and together, they lift Grandma and lay her back onto the bed, trying to steady her. But when they are unable to control her, Risa quickly grabs a scarf from the closet, and they bind her trembling hands and legs to keep her from hurting herself. They then both beg her to calm down, asking what is wrong, and after a tense struggle, Grandma finally begins to settle. Meanwhile, Riri tells Asi they shouldn't leave the house, and when she says she wants to go back, Asi grips her arm tightly, refusing to let her go. Just then, Risa and Andre hear Riri scream. They rush out of the room in panic, and Risa hurries to Riri's room but finds it empty. At the same time, Andre peers out a window, straining to see through the darkness, and just as he turns to leave, Asi's face appears at the glass. Meanwhile, Risa returns to her room, where she sees Asi and Riri in the mirror, but the bed behind her lies empty. As she spins around, Asi begins crawling out of the mirror. Terrified, Risa stumbles backward, screaming, until in a desperate attempt, she hurls an object at the mirror, shattering it and causing Asi to vanish. Outside, Asi suddenly appears, and Andre freezes, sensing her presence. Slowly, he steps back and turns his head, but Assi vanishes. Confused and scared, he turns to move forward, but he suddenly spots her again, and before he can even blink, she closes the gap in an instant and attacks him. Risa rushes down at the sound of his scream, only to find Andri sprawled on the floor. She desperately tries to wake him, but he remains unresponsive. Then, a faint creak echoes from above, and when she dashes to her grandmother's room, she freezes, seeing a chair rocking on its own. In frustration, she turns to leave, when Assi appears on the chair for a split second before vanishing, and Grandma bolts upright. After this, her body shakes unnaturally before she collapses. Risa calls her mother, telling her that Assi has taken Riri and that she is not a human. Panicked, Elle says she'll come right away, but urges Risa not to do anything and to wait for her. Risa sits at the piano and calls out to Peter, William, and Janshin, telling them she needs their help. She begins to play the piano and sings the Sundanese song, and after a while, she hears her friends' voices joining in. Turning around, she sees them standing there, and Peter moves forward and tells her she has grown up. Overjoyed, Risa hugs them, saying she's missed them so much after all these years. Janshin then gently reminds her that she needs to find Riri, and William adds that Assi is evil. She wants Riri, but Riri is not her first victim. Risa pleads with them to help her, but Peter explains that Riri has been taken to their world and Risa must go there. When she asks how, they tell her not to be afraid, assuring her that they will be with her. Though once there, she will see their true forms. Desperate to save her sister, Risa steps into the other world, and at that moment, Elle arrives at the house with Asa. Meanwhile, guided by her friends, Risa enters a bathroom and, to her horror, finds Riri with Assi in the bathtub. She tries to wake her, pleading, "Let's go home," but Assi snarls at her in anger. Risa makes another desperate attempt to rouse Riri, but Assi whispers, "Come with me," before slipping into the water with her. Risa rushes forward to stop them, but by then Assi vanishes with Riri. Elle and Asef rush into Riri's room, where Asef finds a comb on the bed, and as he picks it up, a vision overwhelms him. He sees Assi bathing her baby in a tub, while a woman's voice coldly calls the child a bastard. In anguish, Assi forces the baby under the water, and the crying slowly fades until it stops. She then lifts the lifeless child and clutches him to her chest as she breaks down in heart-wrenching cries. Next, he sees her sitting under that tree and pressing the same comb against her wrist, before taking her last breaths beneath the branches. Asep suddenly falls back, and in a faint voice, he tells Elle that Assi ended her life beneath the big tree near the house, then asks her to bury the comb in the ground. Elle reaches the tree, but injures her leg and falls. But with sheer desperation, she drives the cursed comb into the ground. Instantly, Riri emerges from the water, and Risa quickly tries to pull her out, but is unable to lift her alone. At that moment, Risa's friends join her, and as Elle finally buries the comb, Assi's piercing scream echoes into the night. They finally wrench Riri from the tub as Assi's wail splits the air, fading into nothingness. Elle returns and bursts into the bathroom, relief flooding her as she finds Risa and Riri huddled together, shaken but safe, and at the same time, Grandma and Andri are freed from Assi's dark hold too. Risa says that, just as she promised when she was a child, she still plays with them to this day. Her friends approach from behind, but when she turns, Riri tells her that their mom is looking for her, as they need to leave now. As Risa walks away with Riri, her friends watch from the treehouse, and the scene fades out. A few days later, a little girl finds the comb beneath the tree, and holding her doll, she says, "Let me comb your hair so you'll look prettier." And the film ends here.